We are back with you live once again on another Johnny Torch Live broadcast. The Johnny Torch Live program, number 223 today. And we have Torch News Roundup 188 coming at ya. So, how are you? How you doing? Didn't know what I was going to do this week for a broadcast because there really isn't a whole lot of stuff to talk about. But, let's see, wait a second. I am opening up the chat room in case we get one of our friendly viewers to come on and help me out by asking me a lot of questions. All right, so we are back with you once again here live on the Johnny Torch broadcast. Here it is, the week before Halloween, 1 week to Halloween. Not sure exactly what I can do this week that's Halloween-ish. We got a couple of stories that's close in that theme. I want to tell you, talking about Halloween coming up, we're 1 week from Halloween. Of course, Halloween, we're not doing a broadcast. We're not, because, of course, this is the only way to spend your Saturday here with us in the Johnny Torch Live program, but we take Halloween off. So I have no idea when the next broadcast is going to be. I mean, I could do an earlier one, say Wednesday. I could do a later one, say Sunday. We'll have to see. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to go. But I was outside today taking my constitutional, as I am wont to do. And this is the truth. I am not putting you on. I heard somebody already had All I Want for Christmas Is You on repeat, blasting it out there. It's a week to Halloween. I don't know where that came from or who couldn't wait to hear that song and replay it a couple of times this early in the year, because they don't play that song like 20,000 times as it is over the course of, from, say, November 15th on. And then, going further down the street, there was a house with a Christmas tree already up. I think people are anxious for the year to be over with, to be totally honest. That's probably what it is. But, man, I think the Christmas spirit is going to be something this year because, we need a little Christmas right this very minute, apparently. And I love Christmas, so you got no complaints from me. But here at this house in Stately Torch Tower, we celebrate the holidays one at a time. We got Halloween coming up, so happy Halloween to you all out there. Hope you enjoy your spooky movies and candy and whatever other things you do to celebrate the holiday, as long as it doesn't involve any kind of satanic rituals. I would strongly suggest not doing that. All right, so enough falderall, as they say, and let us get on with the program. Let's see, last week we had a poll of the week question, which was, what are you most looking forward to? The Spider-Verse shared universe, which would purportedly reunite Sam Raimi with Tobey Maguire and also bring in Andrew Garfield for a movie with Tom Holland. Or are you more interested in the DC multiverse? Apparently, Flashpoint, the Flash movie, is going to introduce a multiple dimension situation where you're going to have multiple Batman actors, specifically Michael Keaton coming back to the role of Batman, allegedly. Also Ben Affleck and possibly others. And the DC Multiverse won 3 votes to 2. Not a very busy poll, but still we got enough to make a decisive, mostly decisive. I guess it was 1 vote that put him over. But it's going to be the DC Multiverse is what you guys are looking forward to most of all. All right, and before we get to the stories, be sure you like, share, and subscribe. Check out The Adventures of Bolt's Bourbon Private Eye in the link in the description below. And I had so much work to do. Can I tell you? I got to tell you. I had a lot of work to do on page 4. Man, I had to retrace practically the entire page and digitally ink it. I don't know what happened, but a lot of the lines faded. And I get that sometimes with a couple of parts of a page might come out a little lighter, it might print out a little lighter, and you have to go over a couple of elements. And then there are other certain things that I like to re-ink sometimes because the panels are not that well defined, or could show up a little crooked, or could, sometimes I got to trim it, make it fit a little bit better, little housekeeping things. But this was a project and a half, and it took me well over a week and a half, nearly 2 weeks. So finally, happy to say I'm getting that page colored now. And barring any more unforeseen problem pages, we are going to be on pace, hopefully, to, get things going in the, I'm going to say late spring. I think the book should be out by late spring. That's usually what I try to target. Usually I get a book out twice a year, and it's usually probably late April, early May, and then there's usually sort of November, December-ish. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. I got, things get turned a little bit in the timeline when I'm doing a remaster. That's one of the graphic novel collections, when I take the separate issues, and put them in one collection. Which, speaking of which, we have updated the website. We've updated the website. I don't know if I should show you this right now or wait till later, but why not? This is the shill portion of the broadcast. If you just want to watch the news stories, I'm sure you're going to have to on the rebroadcast fast forward this portion. But let's see. How do I get from here to there? Okay. Now it's done. All right. So here we are. That does not look good. No, I'm having problems doing it. I never had that problem before. I honestly don't know what happened there. All right, so we're going to skip showing you the website until I can figure out how to do that. But check out the website. It has been completely retooled. This is something very important, which, let me stop sharing screen, I guess. That's the only way to get out of that. All right. Anyway, as I said, we retooled a lot of the images. I had images up there from 2012 when I first started putting up the website, and they were hand colored, and they really didn't look up to snuff. So I'm going to have to put you on your word that you're going to check it out. The link is in the description below for the website, the Bullets Bourbon Comics website. I have replaced all the artwork, all the images, in the heroes and villains and citizens portion of the website. I didn't change any of the copy, but I did not yet add copy to the new villains that we have in the villain section. So by the time you see this video, maybe it will be up. I didn't get a chance to do it yet, but very interesting. Also, a lot of times you'll hear me say I forget to put the preview pages up. We do have the preview pages up right now for Bullets Bourbon number 7. Let's see. We also fixed up. What did we do? We put in new. It's you can call it preview pages too, but we got some preview images up for Bullets Bourbon number 8 in the coming soon section, which also is the Contact Johnny Torch section, where you'll see a couple of images that I released to the public about issue 8. So if you're curious about that, be sure you check that out. And of course, you can get all 4 issues and collections. You can get them all on Indie Planet, but the only way to get them autographed and at a discount is to order them through my website. So you can look me up on Indie Planet, or you can just order through the website. On the front page, you'll find the the PayPal links. You can order them. There's a $2 shipping and handling fee on each, because I have no idea how much shipping is going to cost, so I just put down $2. But apart from that, you're getting them a little bit cheaper than you would from Indie Planet, and you're getting them autographed. And who knows? I've got some leftover goodies that I didn't get to give away with the Indiegogo campaign. So I still have stickers. I still have magnets. Depending on the size of your order, I'll throw in some goodies, just because I'm a nice guy, because that's the kind of guy I am, right? You all know it. You've been with me for many years now. You know, let's not pretend anymore. Okay, so also you can check the link in the description below for my Twitter page. Check me out ranting and railing, talking politics, talking about the craziness of the world for the most part, but also occasionally some fun stuff like the poll of the week question we just did and some other stuff. I've got some root beer right here, and I'm going to take a sip. So be sure to check that all out. Okay, no more fooling around. Here we go with the news of the week. Let's see. Now, in this case, we've got some images up here that I will put up. First off, some Star Wars news in order to pad the program a little bit here. I don't know that this is news, but apparently they've asked I'm blanking on the gentleman's name. Liam Neeson, excuse me. Liam Neeson. It's only root beer, folks. It's only root beer. They asked Liam Neeson if he is going to return at some point as Qui-Gon Jinn. Apparently, a statement made to some... I did a terrible job as I was in a hurry today. I don't know what outlet put out this story, so I have no idea. But he said, I've done the voice for Qui-Gon Jinn in a couple of the animated versions of it. I can't remember the names of them. Myself and Sam Jackson did our Jedi Knights for those. I think I did 2 of them. But on film, I haven't been approached. No. All right, sidebar. He hasn't been approached yet, apparently. So he probably could still be, because I think they're still formulating what the Kenobi series is going to be on Disney+. We continue. I haven't really been following them, to be honest. I don't know if they've come to an end. He thinks the Star Wars saga is over. I don't think that's going to happen, Liam. I seriously don't. I heard they did a film of Harrison Ford's character, Han Solo, and that there was a bit of trouble with that. What do you think? Are Star Wars fans finished with it? I think they're finished with bad Star Wars films, to be honest. And again, I'm as a person that liked Solo a little bit better than most people, it's possible that Disney can turn things around. You know, we heard all kinds, Doomcock and all these people are saying that George Lucas is this close to rejoining Lucasfilm and he's going to right the ship and he's going to sail this baby back into the hearts of fandom. I don't know. I'm starting to feel, as time goes by, less and less confident that they're ever going to truly right the ship. I think what you're going to see is they're going to still kind of try to do something with Star Wars, but they're going to probably keep it on this low level, this down low. They're going to try to force, or let's put it this way, they're going to try to focus their energies on a certain area that's going to be successful for them. So, for instance, The Mandalorian is popular. The Mandalorian is successful. They're going to continue to work on episodic streaming services. They're going to do episodic television because they're successful with that. Movies, I think they're going to work a lot slower. They're going to drag their feet. They're going to try to come up with something eventually, but it's going to depend. It's going to come out of whatever they do with streaming. So, for example, if The Mandalorian is this popular and goes on for, I don't know how many seasons, 5 or 6 seasons or whatever, can they extrapolate that into a motion picture? Will they be able to do something with that lore? I don't know. I don't know if is that something they're going to want to do, or will they be tapped out by the end of, I don't know, 7 seasons, 6 seasons, however long a streaming series usually lasts. I don't know, because in my experience, they don't last that long. You usually get 3 years of a streaming show, and that's kind of it. But I'm not really up on that kind of stuff. I could be wrong. I think that's the reason why Cobra Kai had to shop around, because these streaming services don't really think long term. They're like, we'll get 2-3 seasons out of it, then we're done. We're going to move on. And I think that's what they were going to do with Cobra Kai. And I think that's why the producers wisely figured, look, we could go as far as we like with this. This is very successful. And I think should Disney continued to have success with The Mandalorian and ostensibly a few other things like Kenobi. They're trying to propose some other things. I don't know what else was there. A Darth Maul show going to be in the works. I don't know, a Lando series, young Lando, possibly young Han, possibly a Boba Fett spinoff. If they can get some traction with those things, depending on who's behind them. I mean, Favreau is, and again, I haven't seen The Mandalorian, so I'm just kind of going by the word on the street from fans is that The Mandalorian is good. Now, I am going to probably get Disney Plus at some point, but the only thing they have on there right now that interests me is The Mandalorian, and I am not going to go, buying it and using the service just for one show. If you have a bunch of other shows, like what was supposed to be by now, WandaVision, Bucky, and what was it? The Falcon and the Winter Soldier? I forget what they called it, but these shows were supposed to be on, and then you had something new every month to look forward to. But I could have just, bought it for The Mandalorian for like a month and then just, opt out, I guess, which is what I probably should have done. I would have got on the bandwagon when everybody else was watching it. All right, so what do you think about this? Do you think Liam is just playing coy here? Do you think he wants to play the Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn again? Let me know in the comments below. Sticking with that Star Wars theme, we've got some copy from John Boyega. Yeah, boy. Yeah, Boyega. And there was an interview with him as well, talking about his time in Star Wars. He's not been shy in expressing his feelings of dissatisfaction, let's put it that way. I think the three primary cast members, Isaac and Ridley, also not too pleased with their time in Star Wars, not so much because of the personalities as much as the behind the scenes shenanigans. All right, so I think we talked about this before, but get the Bark root beer. That's the best root beer there is. I just love it. On sale at Walmart this week. I had to pick up a couple of bottles. Okay, Star Wars. Let's see. We got the copy here. Yahoo Movies did an interview with John Boyega and asked him about the concept art showing original plans for Finn. Now, that's what this picture is, I guess. This is one of the original, concept art. And it looks like it's just as Finn yelling again. He's probably saying, Ray! Because that's kind of his catchphrase. I don't know. This really doesn't excite me any more than anything I'd seen in the actual film. To be honest, I was kind of supportive of Rise of Skywalker. I hate to say it that way because, see, my opinion is all three sequel trilogy movies stunk. Now they had perspective characters there. I didn't really have a problem with Boyega or Ridley or Isaac or Driver, but they tried to recreate A New Hope too closely. And then they did the old bait and switch with Finn, where it made sense that he was going to be a side character. But they sort of, in the promotional materials, tried to push him as sort of going to be the lead character of the saga. And we knew that wasn't going to happen because the Skywalker saga is supposed to be about a Skywalker. So obviously, the old bait and switch got a lot of people ticked off thinking he was going to be a Jedi, and which I said all along, I would be happy with Finn being a Jedi. I would have been happy with Oscar Isaac's character being a Jedi, but such is they were afraid to hew too closely to what Lucas was doing with the prequel trilogy. All right, so let's take a look at the story here. I think Colin Trevorrow was going to tell that story, said Boyega. The image of Finn with the blue flag, and you have the AT-ATs lined up with tribal marks, and the stormtroopers take off their helmets. That would have been sick. That would have been dope, man. Hands down. So let's see what he says. I'm a Mandalorian fan, so Lucasfilm is doing very well with those TV shows. An animated show would be dope. We could do it from home. So I guess apparently he doesn't care to go back, but he wants to do an animated show as the voice of Finn. I don't know what's going on with Star Wars. I'm alive, that's one thing, but it would depend on story and if Daisy and Oscar are coming back. I wouldn't want to be running around by myself or anything. So, it has been the most receptive, I think, about coming back to the Star Wars universe. Because I think he's in the position that Mark Hamill was in with Star Wars. Mark Hamill was always the Star Wars cheerleader. Now, back in the 80s, the late 80s, early 90s, when it looked like Star Wars was pretty much done, Mark Hamill kind of had that moment of, oh, I don't want to look at Star Wars anymore. I don't need it. But then, come the mid-90s and the sort of a renaissance of Star Wars, fans were coming back and starting to buy the toys again and this and that. Mark Hamill became the cheerleader for it. He was, yeah, I'm Luke Skywalker. Yeah, well, we'll do it again someday, and so on and so forth. And I think that's kind of the position Boyega finds himself in, because as Mark Hamill said about Luke Skywalker, he said, well, I got to become a Jedi in Return of the Jedi, but where are my adventures? Where am I now as a Jedi? We don't get to see it. And in the same way, to a much larger extent, Boyega was promised a plum role in the trilogy, and he got, I don't want to say the shaft as much as he obviously took second billing, basically, story-wise. I mean, he didn't have anything important to do. He basically got Han Solo duty, which is why Harrison Ford kind of wanted to back out after, or maybe even during Empire Strikes Back, because he was sort of just like the handsome leading man. And, and of course, in Boyega's case, he didn't even have the romantic interest. They kind of like toyed with that, which we all knew it really wasn't going to happen because of the girl power elements and this and that. So anyway, I think he's going to try to do the Mark Hamill thing, which is he's going to hold out hope that someday he's going to get his Finn story, and he's going to hopefully reunite with his castmates, Ridley and Isaac, who Isaac is sort of like the Harrison Ford in this analogy, because he kind of had a career before. I mean, I don't know that Ford really had a huge career before Star Wars. He was in American Graffiti, and I think he did one or two things. But Oscar Isaac probably is not going to be in trouble for roles. You know what I mean? He's not wanting for roles. I think Ridley is going to be sort of more in the case of Carrie Fisher, where, she's probably not going to be in high demand as an actress, and then she's going to probably go off sort of into other areas, like Fisher became a writer. I kind of see this cast going the same way, and Boyega pretty much also is already saying, look, I can do voiceover work, you know what I mean? So it kind of feels like history's repeating itself. I think Isaac is probably the most hesitant to return. I don't think he really needs Star Wars the way Ford didn't really need it, and he'd probably do it as a favor. And Ridley it's going to depend on how successful she is without Star Wars. So, all right, let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you want to see any of the characters of Star Wars return from the sequel trilogy? Do you want to just let that saga rest in peace? Let it just lie there? That's kind of where I am. I mean, in a way, you kind of feel bad, or at least I kind of feel bad for these actors that they were just given such a terrible, shoddy, just a terrible, complete disaster of a project. There's just no other way to put it. And it was seat of the pants. There was no vision whatsoever for it. And the original conception, which was to have basically 3 separate visions, was even more ludicrous. So that's what it is. We'll just leave it at that. But let me know what you think in the comments below. All right, so we continue on here now with Superman and Lois getting another member of the cast. Now, you would think that this lovely here in front of you would be Lana Lang, but of course, no, we cannot have actual redheads on the show as Lana Lang. For some reason, no redheads anymore, as decreed. Now, she's not a flaming redhead, but I could very easily see her as Lana Lang. No, she's not playing Lana Lang. Let's see. The CW's upcoming Superman and Lois series. Wait a second. Here we go. To move some things around here so I could read this. Okay. Has added another member of its cast in the form of Canadian actress Stacey Farber from Degrassi, who joined the show in the recurring role of Leslie Lar. 2 L's, get it? Lois Lane, Lana Lang, Lex Luthor. Linda Lee originally was Supergirl. This new character is described as the right hand to one of the most influential people on the planet. She's gone from a young idealistic dreamer to a hardened, world-worn dream killer. Athletic, strong, and oftentimes heartless. Leslie Lar is clearly a play on Lesla Lar, a Silver Age Supergirl villain. This is interesting. Now, did they have plans for her on Supergirl before the show, is going to be canceled and they decided to ship her over to Superman and Lois? I don't know. Let's see. A Silver Age Supergirl villain who hailed from the bottle city of Kandor and actually switched places with Kara for a time in the comics. Whether Farber's character turns out to be Lesla or her name is just a homage remains to be seen, but we recently found out that Mad About You actress Sophia Hemslick joined the cast as Chrissy Beppo, so this could turn out to be a recurring theme. There's also speculation that the influential person from the description is Lex Luthor, and we reckon that's a fairly safe bet. Now, again, so far we've been hearing that they're not going to get John Cryer back as Luthor, and I think that is the biggest mistake. He has proved to be, I don't want to say the best feature of Supergirl, but he did add a lot of help to that show last year. He really helped out that last season. And he's proved to be a really good Luthor. He's been a really good actor in that role. And with Supergirl especially leaving the airwaves pretty soon, I could see very easily him translating his role over to Superman and Lois. I don't see why they would not move him over to that show, unless, of course, A, John Cryer is asking too much money, or B, John Cryer doesn't want to do it, either from other commitments or just doesn't want to have a regular show anymore, which that kind of, an actor needs to act. I mean, he's got to eat like everyone else, so I kind of doubt it's the latter. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Let me know what you think about this news in the comments below, as we always say. And let's take a look at the next story here, which is, we were talking about Halloween earlier. We got some Halloween stories here. This is kind of interesting. Kinda. Let's see. Wait a second. There we go. Having some difficulty with maneuvering this thing around. All right, this is Addams Family. Apparently, Tim Burton is going to do a Addams Family television series. Now, this is kind of interesting. I don't know. Trying to find the copy. Oh boy, this is a world-class broadcast today, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. The Addams Family are returning to live action for a new TV series. And of course, this is not going to be animated, so this is just the first thing I found, and I put it up just to give some context. None other than Tim Burton is overseeing the project. This would mark Tim Burton's first foray into live-action television, and he's said to be in negotiations to executive produce and possibly direct all episodes of this new show. Smallville developers and executive producers Alfred Goh and Miles Miller are on board as head writers and will also serve as showrunners. MGM TV is financing the development of the series. The package is said to have multiple buyers bidding for it. Netflix is the current favorite to land the project, however. According to Deadline, this latest take on the creepy, kooky, spooky clan would be set in present times and be from the perspective of Wednesday Addams and what the world will look like to her in 2020. All right, so let me just get it off my chest right off the bat. Tim Burton has been ruining franchises since 1989. Because a lot of people are going to say, oh, this is right up his alley. This is right up his alley. But they never really do justice to these things with remakes. You know what I'm saying? They never do. And Tim Burton does not stick to canon. Look what he did with Batman. Batman is a killer. Joker killed Batman's family. Alfred let Vicky Vale in the Batcave. It just, he has no compunction to change things. You know what I mean? He's just going to do whatever he wants to do with the characters. Of course, Batman Returns was even more into the sort of weirdness. The weird mind of Tim Burton came up with the Penguin in that strange, deformed condition. Very bizarre. And then, of course, look what he did with Planet of the Apes. Nobody was particularly happy with his Planet of the Apes remake. Fans weren't particularly happy with Dark Shadows either. The Johnny Depp tribute to the TV show, which we were talking about not too long ago. You can check out that video. He turned it into sort of a comedy with no, really no gravitas. Which I still haven't seen it, by the way, but... And then he's, done a lot of other weird things, too. I mean, you can't say that, with things like Sleepy Hollow and Alice in Wonderland, I mean, those are things that I suppose is sort of literature. You can kind of put your own spin on that. But Dumbo, again, also was something that I think they took it in a different direction. So I don't feel very confident in Tim Burton's abilities to translate the Addams Family correctly. And I really wasn't even a fan of the 90s Addams Family with, who was in that? Raul Julia and the late, great Raul Julia. And Christina Ricci. Of course, the great Christopher Lloyd. Yeah, but still, it just, there's no way that you can get the same feeling with new actors. It's very difficult unless you dedicate yourself to trying to get the mannerisms down pat. There'll never be another John Astin. John Astin was spectacular as Gomez. And the same thing with, the rest of the cast. I mean, Uncle Fester. I mean, they all have their own, the actors have their own sort of, take on a character. They imbue it with their own personality. It's very difficult to try to recreate that and emulate that in any way. So, I don't know. I just, again, I love the Addams Family. I would say I like the Addams Family more than the Munsters. When that debate always comes up, I always say the Addams Family. Although, of course, both were great shows. They don't make shows like that anymore. That's the sad thing. Everything nowadays is sex comedies and, all that kind of stuff. But, give me the old-fashioned, all ages, good old-fashioned humor. And I will be there. All right, unfortunately, we've got our topic for the evening left. And this is a pretty sad and depressing topic. Let me get it up here on screen. Yeah, they're coming after Chris Pratt again. They're coming after Pratt, unfortunately. And this all started with, let's see, there was a lot of stuff going on. It started off with the cast of Avengers got together with the Russo brothers, and they were going to do which, spoiler warning, if you're easily triggered, you're probably not going to want to hear this. So, you've been warned. All right, so the Russo brothers and the cast of the Avengers, most of the cast members, got together to do a fundraiser for Harris Biden, which I guess because Harris was there, Kamala Harris was there, and it was, it's Harris Biden. It's not Biden Harris. Let's be honest. And Chris Pratt was not there, and so then this, of course, sent ripples, shockwaves through the internet that perhaps, just perhaps, mind you, he might be in the 10% of actors who do not support the Democratic Party. Now, of course, as we all know, in that 10% that do not support the Democratic Party are the outcasts of Hollywood. The Scott Bayos, the Dean Cains, the Christy Alleys, the James Woods, most of which who are vocal online. John Voight, you can get a handful of them, to come up with a handful of them, but there are not many. They are not loud. In some cases, they are, like James Woods. He's unabashedly Republican, and so are the ones I've mentioned. But you're not allowed to be Republican and still be a working actor. Apparently, this is what it seems like. Okay, so that was the first problem. And then, of course, who's this character? Amy Berg put up a tweet saying the tired meme, which is the Chris that you'd leave out of the Chris actors, of course, being Chris Hemsworth, Chris Pine, Chris Evans, Chris Pratt. I don't have the tweet in front of me, but apparently it was followed by a ton of people canceling Chris Pratt and eliminating him from the list. And of course, this goes back to him being a Christian, because if there's anything worse, if possible, than being a conservative or a Republican in Hollywood, it's being a practicing Christian. You know, you could pay lip service to it, but a practicing Christian, persona non grata. All right. So, of course, this is kind of, I mean, usually what happens is a star, a celebrity will say something, get caught saying something, get caught doing something, and they're canceled. This, I think, is the first time I've ever seen somebody get canceled minding their own business, keeping their opinions to themselves, keeping mum, shutting up. Chris Pratt didn't ask for any of this. He didn't betray any political leanings, any strong opinions, and yet he is still being canceled. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago with Katie Lotz, who was summarily canceled and shouted down. And again, I don't think she's a conservative. I don't think she's a Republican. But she had the temerity, the audacity to suggest that maybe talk to your neighbors. And if they're Trump supporters, treat them well and have a dialogue, you know, try to get along. And this was shouted down, and she was responded to very harshly, very vitriolic, until she had to sort of go away for a week or whatever it was, and then kind of carry on because of the horrible suggestion that people should try to get along with people of the opposite political ideology. All right, so the Russo brothers, as well as the Avengers cast, came to the aid of Chris Pratt, and they were summarily turned on and abused. And of course, they are all, well, for the most part, they're leftists. I think, to be honest with you, I think Robert Downey Jr., if I was to guess, he would be, I think he's a little more on the conservative side. But again, he's another guy that keeps his politics to himself. He doesn't go out and campaign for anyone. It's okay if you're a Democrat actor or a liberal actor or whatever to campaign for the Democratic ticket. But if you're a Republican campaigning, you will not work again in Hollywood. So that's kind of where we're at. So I think that's the reason why Downey Jr. has been pretty much under the radar. Again, I'm not outing him or anything. I have no real proof that he's conservative, but I think he's, from the little interviews I've seen of him where he talks a little bit of politics, he seems to be pretty much leaning conservative. Also, you have to remember that Robert Downey Jr. is not a stranger to controversy. Of course, he was the original comeback kid when Mel Gibson fell afoul and, of course, continues to be the object of cancel culture. He stood up for him, and he has even said he would like to see him in a Marvel movie, I think, at some point, but I think Mel is uninterested. So, getting to the copy here, let me see. I do have some of these tweets up so I can see. All right, so Robert Downey Jr., he put out, well, this is an Instagram. This is not a tweet, but He's quoted as saying, "What a world. The sinless are casting stones on my brother Chris Pratt, a real Christian who lives by principle, has never demonstrated anything but positivity and gratitude, and he just married into a family that makes space for civil discourse and just plain fact, insists on service as the highest value. If you take issue with Chris, I've got a novel idea. Delete your social media accounts, sit with your own defects of character, work on them, then celebrate your humanness. Pratt, 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 I got your back, back, back." Of course, because that's his Twitter handles, Pratt, Pratt, Pratt. All right, so this is kind of interesting. This also brings up what he's alluding to there is that Pratt has married into the Shriver family, I believe, which is a Democrat leaning family, of course, historically. So this is not like he is completely at odds like a lot of these leftists are, where you can't possibly talk civilly about politics to anyone because you're automatically the enemy, you're automatically subhuman, and so forth. So just by basis of who he's married alone, obviously we see that Pratt is not some kind of radical like a lot of these other guys. Some of the other tweets, let's see, Zoe Zaldana said, "No matter how hard it gets, stick your chest out, keep your head up, and handle it." The quote attributed to Tupac. And she says, "You got this, Pratt, Pratt, Pratt. Your family, friends, colleagues, and everyone who's ever crossed paths with you knows your heart and your worth." And of course, she was summarily turned on as well. And Zoe Saldana gets like the worst vitriol, I think, from the black community because I see the most abuse heaped at her from the black community. I don't see anybody ever being racist against her except the black community. Next up, we got Mark Ruffalo, who says, "You all, Pratt, Pratt, Pratt is..." That's very weird the way he says that. You all. It should be all, but I don't know. "You all, Pratt, Pratt, Pratt is a man there is. I know him personally. Instead of casting aspersions, look at how he lives his life. He is just not overtly political as a rule. This is a distraction. Keep our eyes on the prize, friends. We're so close now." So, again, I took offense at this mostly because Ruffalo is basically saying he's not overtly political, Pratt. And that means it's okay. You know what I mean? It's like, as long as he doesn't really say what he's voting for or what his political beliefs are, he's got plausible deniability. You know what I mean? Well, we can't throw rocks at him for being a Trump supporter because he hasn't come out and flown the Trump flag. So, I mean, come on, Ruffalo. Ruffalo's as liberal as they get. It's the same thing as Evans. That's fine. You have your beliefs. That's fine. But again, stop trying to make this like, as long as he keeps his mouth shut, he'll be okay, Pratt. And so far, he's kept his mouth shut. But see, that's the problem with cancel culture. The cancel culture does not come after you just for what you say. They try to cancel you for what you don't say. Now, Pratt has not come out one way or the other. So, by virtue, de facto, he's guilty. He should be coming out against Trump. He should be coming out for Biden, because if he doesn't come out for Biden, maybe he's for Trump. If he doesn't come out against Trump, then maybe he's for Trump. You know what I mean? So that's where the problem is with this cancel culture crap. It's, it never used to be like this. I mean, we had two political parties for a reason. And the whole idea was you were supposed to support your party, support your candidate, and you weren't supposed to think worse of the other guy. I mean, you could disagree with them. You can even argue with them. Your neighbors, co-workers, family members, heaven knows, because I've got plenty. But you weren't supposed to treat them like they were a pariah. You know what I mean? You were supposed to be like, well, we had that conversation and maybe it got heated, but, we're still friends, we're still family, we're still work buddies, whatever. It can't be that way anymore because of this poisonous ideology that the left has, where if you are not for us, you're against us. If you are not supporting Biden, then you're some kind of racist and misanthrope or whatever. It's just sad, and it's sick too. But all right, let's take a look. Okay, Splash Page Comics. Hello, Mr. White Gloves. Nice to see you here again. Haven't seen you in a while. How you doing, buddy? Nice to see you here. I've got another part of this topic, though, we've got to talk about here. Now, this is the Russo brothers has also put out a statement. Now, they said, let's see, with an interview with Now This Thursday, Joe Russo said Pratt was not asked to participate because he was halfway across the world in the wrong time zone. Pratt had been in the UK filming Jurassic World Dominion. Production was temporarily shut down in early October. Let's see. We thought it was important to defend Chris because he's being chastised for an event that we organized. But we easily would have had him participate if he were here and were available for the event. So we felt that it was inappropriate that people were making assumptions about his politics, about who he is as a person, about his integrity, because they're all false. And we could tell you that because we know him personally and we know the truth. Let's see. The Russos held the Biden campaign fundraiser along with vice presidential nominee Kamala Harris and 7 members of the Avengers cast, October 20th. Chris Evans, Mark Ruffalo, Paul Rudd, Scarlett Johansson, Don Cheadle, Zoe Saldana, and Robert Downey Jr. all joined the virtual event to talk about the stakes of the 2020 election. Yeah. So again, this is kind of a strange thing. Now, also, it says here in this story. Now, you guys might remember this from last year. Actor Ellen Page, it should say actress, but all right. Actor Ellen Page tweeted in 2019 about Zoe Church after Pratt talked about joining the church in a talk show. And she said, if you are a famous actor and you belong to an organization that hates a certain group of people, don't be surprised if someone simply wonders why it's not addressed. Being anti-LGBTQ is wrong. There aren't two sides. Now, this is the first time that Pratt was canceled, was over this ridiculous issue. Now, again, you're going to get triggered by this one too, but see, this is the problem, and this is what I said on Twitter, that for those of you on the left that believe in separation of church and state, it has to work both ways. Now, they keep coming after Chris Pratt because he's a Christian, because he goes to church, and then they'll always find somebody or something connected with that church that is quote-unquote anti-LGBTQ. But the fact is, if you believe in separation of church and state, you should be separating from the church and not feeling like you can impose your values, your beliefs, your worldview, let's put it that way, onto the church. The church does not have a requirement of accepting your worldview. The church accepts the Bible as the word of God, and whatever the Bible says is the final court of arbitration. That is the word of God, and it cannot be changed simply because you want to change it, because society has told you this is acceptable now. The Bible is unchanging. God's word is unchanging. So when I keep hearing how everyone keeps coming back to bashing Chris Pratt over the head because he's a Christian, because he goes to a church that doesn't accept, apparently, LGBTQ beliefs as being valid, that is the church. You cannot change the church, or you're being unrealistic with your expectations that you can change the church. The church view is homosexuality as a sin. That is not going to change. And if it does change in the church you're not going to a valid church. You're going to a social club that is putting on airs that they are Bible believing and God believing and Christ following. But if you are actually members of the body of Christ, you take the word of God seriously. And so, like I said, if you have a problem with what the church teaches, you ought not try to involve yourself into the church. Involve yourself into other matters, other religions. Now, that would be a little difficult because, as far as I know, I don't think that there is a religion, of the Abrahamic faiths, right? Of the Abrahamic faiths, the Islam, Judaism, and Christianity all preach against homosexuality, which is another thing. You don't ever see them coming after a Jewish actor. You don't ever see them coming after a Muslim actor. It's always a Christian actor that somehow has to prove, I don't hate gay people, which of course Christians don't hate gay people. And that's the reason why this always becomes, some kind of cyclone of, what's the word I'm looking for? Propaganda. It becomes just sort of like a propaganda thing where they just come out and try to hammer Christianity on this. And it has nothing to do with hate. It has to do with, this is what we believe. And if you want to be part of the church and part of this thing that apparently you don't believe in and you don't accept, you're going to just have to divorce yourself from it. And that's kind of the bottom line, because it isn't going to change for you. It hasn't changed in thousands of years, and I don't see that God's word is going to change now because it becomes publicly or popular socially. So again, and also I see a lot of things too of people criticizing Pratt for getting divorced. That's another thing I wanted to touch on, because again, this is another thing that a lot of these people who are not Christians, who are not Bible believing, who are not religious, they want to bash things they know nothing about. Like, as I said, Christianity is not about hate. It's not about ostracizing, and Jesus taught that very, very well. And same thing with him getting divorced. A lot of people are saying he left, I believe Anna Faris was her name, and he's this terrible person. She was more famous and rich than him, and so it's like, it's none of our business. It's none of your business. I don't know the reasons why they got divorced. I don't see that as my business or yours, really. And they're going to try to blame him for the divorce. Who knows? It's probably both of their fault to some extent. The same thing happened with Amy Grant. I remember that when she got divorced, and she, of course, was in the Christian music industry, even though she, did secular music as well. But it was the same thing there. It was like, let's throw stones at the Christian for getting divorced. Well, you've never walked a mile in those person's shoes. You don't really know the situation. And again, it's very hypocritical when you see the outright debauchery that goes on in Hollywood and the music industry or whatever, and they'll sort of try to, single out the Christian and say, well, he's a horrible person, he did this. He's a horrible person, he did that. In the case of Chris Pratt, he doesn't even say anything. He keeps to himself. He keeps under the radar and doesn't even really make an issue out of these things. And still they come for him. That kind of tells you exactly, what the situation is with him. And finally, as a final point on this, I think that there's a strong pressure on Christians in the entertainment industry to be quiet. And I don't think that's right. Now, bear with me for a second. I'm not saying necessarily that he should be made to say who he's voting for or whatever. There's a secret ballot sort of for a reason. You're not obligated to say who you're voting for. You're not obligated to campaign for anyone. But I think there is sort of this, I don't know, where I think Christian actors should stand up and step up and not be afraid to try to verbalize that they are Christians, because part of being a Christian is the Great Commission. It's being a good example and, proclaiming the word of Christ. Apart from some, just quiet little murmurings or whatever of affirmation, we don't really get guys like Pratt, Zachary Levi. They don't really come out and proclaim Christ. Now, they do it quietly on the down low, but that's what I mean. I don't know why you really need to be that quiet about being a Christian. Well, I know why, because Pratt's gone through it. They'll tie him to, well, he must be homophobic, and he must be this, and he must be that. But I think if enough of these Christian actors stood up and said, hey, look, I've got nothing to be ashamed of being a Christian. Now, you want to try to label me as this and that and the other thing. But see, these guys don't want to. It's kind of one of those things where it reminds me of the Sanhedrin and, Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea, where they were kind of like, they couldn't speak up too much or they'd lose their position. And I think they have to consider it, these guys. I think they have to consider, look, how much am I going to try to stay under the radar? I I can't come out and say I'm Christian without fear of, you know, retribution and to some extent. I think they got to be a little more bold. Now, again, they don't have to be, you know, opening up a ministry or anything, but I think to some extent I could see that they're timid, and I think they should be a little more bold in backing up what they have to say. You know what I mean? It's one thing to like keep your mouth shut and hope that the storm dies down, but it's another thing to sort of step up and say, you know, look, my brother's going through trouble. I'm going to stick up for him. I'm a Christian actor too. And then maybe for the one that's getting abused to stand up and say, look, this is something that, you know, millions of people are Christians. Are you going to try to, you know, bash an entire religion that has many millions of followers and adherents? All right, so there we have it again. Another stellar broadcast from Stately Torch Tower here, overlooking the fair metropolis below. It's been about an hour. I'm going to take it easy now. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you for those of you who have watched. Thank you once again to Mr. White Gloves for showing up and supporting the show. Check out his channel, Splash Page Comics. We love to see everybody here, and leave me a comment in the comment section below about anything that we've talked about today. And so until next we meet, this is Johnny Torch reminding you once again, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.